And welcome to another episode of More Conversations with the Average Black Man. I am Timotheus, and this is my co host with me, the lovely Morphine.
Thank you. I'm not on camera today, but y'all get to hear my lovely voice.
Right. Today is an open mic night. What you want to talk about? What you want to talk about?
Today is an open mic night. Now, we usually don't have these. Our shows are usually a little bit more written out, thought out. But today, we just want to, let the people say what's on their mind. Man. Let them have the conversations they want to have today. I think I'm going to just throw a topic out there. And we're going to kick off the conversation about that. You know?
Go
The
ahead.
first topic I'm gonna throw about is what we was talking about in the back chat. I really didn't get to engage because I was doing the family thing, but the conversation was a little bit about men cheating versus women cheating, and the little delusions behind that. Like some people may think that women are more emotionally attached to the person that they're cheating with, or they're cheating off of emotions, versus men just wanting sex. Um, What's the thoughts on that?
Hey, excuse me, if you don't mind. Instead of talking about that, actually, can I bring up a topic real quick?
Ah,
Since we,
yes. Then
since we
I asked you,
are
you know
in,
what? I ain't even gonna get on you
yeah,
about
yeah, you
it.
asked me, and I was like, not at the moment, but either way, but so since we are in an atmosphere where some of our people are deciding on what to do politically and anything like that, which
Oh,
what do you guys have as far as your opinions on um, the political system today? Like, should we be Democrats? Should we be Republicans? If that makes sense. I want to get y'all thoughts on it. And granted, I don't vote. I'm just throwing it out there, but I just want to get an understanding from other people that do vote. Cool.
that
I
sounds
would
like a fun question.
say that whole party system is the flaw in the whole get down as it is because we're too focused on it's like Bloods and Crips. It's like two gangs, Democrats, Republicans. Oh, two ideologies at war. Let's step people as a whole, well, you just talking about black people, right? So just black, if just to whittle it down on my daughter in the back making noise.
She all right. Come on, we was listening. The viewers know you got babies. They know you got babies. I'm gonna ask you, Zerubbabel. Can you reiterate your question? Like, can you say it again?
Okay, so what I was saying is that the
Sorry, I
whole
didn't hear you,
what,
sis.
what, what should we be
No, go ahead.
Democrats
I'm
and
gonna let him go.
the whole
Go
what
ahead.
should we be Democrats and or Republicans? I personally think that whole system needs to be thrown out of the window, and that way people can actually look at the candidates as individuals and not have this concept of voting for the party. Because as long as this system of voting for the party exists, we'll have instances like we've had for the last what 3 elections where it's just basically them saying we need to choose from the lesser of two evils. Like so basically nobody want to vote for the candidate at all, but since they're since they don't believe that there's any other options, they're like, oh well, we gotta these are the only two we get to pick from. So I think people need to educate themselves more, understand that there is a green party, a yellow party, amongst other political parties. I think as black people, we need to come and actually create our own party, you know, but that's just where I'm at with it.
No doubt. But even without the candidate, let's just say there were no candidates and we just had to vote for a group of people. And I say we very loosely, not including me. But would you say that, either one of you, both of you, are you liberal or more conservative in your thinking?
What happens
I,
if you're both? So
I
there's
was just gonna say I'm a little bit of both, right? I'm a little bit of
yeah.
both.
So it's hard to choose.
Or like independent? So that's great. So can you explain what both means? You know,
Well, the thing about it is that certain issues, I'll use that word issues loosely, are tend to be identified as right or conservative, and some issues are considered to be left or democratic. I can agree with and disagree with both. I can agree that children should not be exposed to, you know, sexuality in grade school, which would be more of a conservative ideology, whereas the liberal ideology is they should absolutely be exposed to it. You know what I mean? Um, I believe that, you know, as far as the what is it, the termination of pregnancy, I believe that should be available everywhere for everyone. But I think the law should also not be discriminatory against men. I think that men should also have the right to choose whether or not he wants to be a father. I don't think it's fair for the law to say only one group of people can do it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's fair for a woman to say, "Well, I'm deciding not to be a mom," and the guy can be like, "Well, I absolutely want to be a father. Give the baby to me." And she's like, "No, f you and how you." The way the law is actually written right now, the woman don't even have to tell the man that she's pregnant. She could just go do it. You know what I mean? But that's just
Right.
me. And he fell off, so I don't know if he's gonna come back or not.
I don't know, but
Uh,
since he opened with a good.
Percy QT, what's going on? What you want to talk about?
We ain't gonna finish talk about that. You only gave you a little consensus on it.
Well, you can keep going. I thought they wanted to continue. I thought they wanted to build on the question.
Right. You just asked them what they wanted to talk about. So, what's your thoughts on the question?
My thing on the question is that there's no such thing as Democrat. Basically, if you look at the Constitution, you look at like the Declaration of Independence, the democracy is nowhere in there. So when we look at politics, it's like, what are we really looking at? When you say the Pledge of Allegiance, you pledge allegiance to the Republic, not democracy. So like that, the whole thing is an actual illusion in my eyes. Like I don't vote. I don't participate in it. If like only time I would vote would be for local government. As far as like for the president, the people have no power whatsoever, and just don't understand why every 4 years people fall for the exact same trick in the bag, as if their vote's really going to change anything when it's the electoral vote that decides the presidency.
And the electoral vote is still governed by the people's vote. Like you said, when you vote locally, you elect senators and all of that type of stuff, and those senators represent you in the electoral college because each state holds a number of electoral votes. We just so happen to be in California, the state that has one of the most, if not the most, electoral votes. I think California carries like 55. All right, QT, what you want to add to it?
I don't have a fight in this battle because I'm a whole different. I'm not in the United States of America.
You got an opinion though.
I would probably be a Green Party. I'd probably be not conservative. Was it Republican or Democrat? I won't be any of them. I would probably choose another party that has like in between rules. Because I am conservative at the same time I am liberal. We call it liberal here, but over there it's like conservative or Democrats. Yeah.
Well, it's either you could say it's conservatives versus libertarians. Now, that could be either a Republican or a Democrat. A conservative could be a libertarian, and a libertarian could be a Republican. So, you know,
A libertarian is a party within itself. So there's liberals and there's
well,
conservatives.
liberal, like you could be liberals and you could
Yeah,
be conservative. So
you can be
you could be a liberal you could be a
You
liberal
can be a
Republican.
conservative
Yeah,
Democrat.
yeah,
Absolutely.
like you could be either
But yeah,
one. So,
libertarian is a whole nother political party.
but that's what I
I
mean. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Well, you could be a liberal and be a Democrat. You could be a conservative and be a I mean, I'm sorry. You could be a liberal, be a Republican, and be a conservative, and be a Democrat.
I think depending on which state I'm in, I would vote regarding the rules and regulations in that state, because each state I believe is different with their rules and regulations. So if I was in the South, I probably would vote
How the South is
conservative.
voting.
Yeah, conservative. But if I was in the East, I probably would vote liberal.
Well, the thing about it is that you should vote. What people tend to do is vote to their ideals and not their best interests. For example, there are a lot of people in the South that hold on to a lot of Jim Crow, to stay away from the R word on YouTube, the Jim Crow mentality. And they voted against Obama simply because of his skin tone. And these people I'm talking about were like, we don't need no Obama. We don't need no central health care. He wants to give people health care. And people, and those same people are on welfare receiving free health care. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people vote against their own interests based on the propaganda that's thrown out there.
Yeah, based on socialisms.
Yeah.
Basically, based on socialism, based
on social ideas, not socialism itself, because that's a whole nother political realm right there. Socialism.
Well, there you go, being my
there's
politically
socialism,
correct all the dang time.
Socialism, Marxism. But we talking about politics. I don't want the audience to be confused. You know?
Well, I'm not mad at you.
There's Marxism. There's democracy. There's what's the other one? Communism. Dictatorships. There's a whole lot. And that's just the ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, I ain't mad at you for wanting to be more politically correct, so that people could be more understanding of what is being said on this panel. So, for my thing is, I would vote for whoever is trying to put more money and more opportunity in my neighborhood, not just my city, but my neighborhood, something that I could see, something that I could walk past every day. This is why I ask people when they asking, about these two parties, which one would help the community more, whether it's a Latino community, whether it's a Black or white community, who will help these communities more? And I'm like, well, who's been helping the community this far? Because both parties could have helped the parties that they're claiming that need help, but have not. So there is that. Like, if Trump helped a party, it wasn't just for that. If he helped the Black community or the brown community, it just wasn't just for them. It was for everybody. They just happen to benefit off of it all. Like, no one has done that.
Is it fair to say that none of the party is for the minority?
Minorities?
Yeah, like none of the party is for them. It's more of like the working class and the taxpayers and all that.
Hey yo, let's look at this. I just, out of curiosity, I pulled this up. So I went to Home Chick's website, right? I'm about to refresh it. So the first thing that pops up on her website is to donate. Boom. Okay, I don't want to donate. So boom, I close it. At the top of the screen, it still says donate. Okay, I scroll down. Register to donate on here. Register to get a newsletter. All right, boom, boom. Let's meet Kamala. Boom, we go to meet Kamala. Nothing on here is about policy. This is her history. She used to be a senator. blah blah blah. She became the vice president. Oh, blah 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 blah. Nowhere does it says what she wants to do when she's in office. Tim Walz, boom, her vice president candidate that she selected. His history tells you who he is. He was in the military. He became a senator. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Talks about that. Nothing about policy. Take action. Take action. What's this? Win the fight. Enter your zip code to get selected to find an event near you, to volunteer, mobilize the community. What are your policies? What are you about? Why should I vote? Why should I rally? What is your message? What do you have that I want to relate to? Store. Get your t-shirt. Buy your
t-shirts and shit.
Get your t-shirts. This is all that's on her website. This is hername.com. Where's the policy?
I need contrast.
Yep,
what is her opponent? What's her opponent website look like?
We're about to look at it right now.
Yes, let's see that.
Now I'm not on nobody's side now, cause I'm hearing what my co-host is saying, and I'm fit.
Do y'all see it? First thing that pop up, donate. A1 day one. All right, boom. What he got on his home screen, same thing. Oh, he got it. He has an agenda.
Okay.
Leadership, Republican, blah, 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 blah. Let's take the community to GOP. Let's go to platform. Read the official Republican Party platform here. He got a syllabus.
This motherfucker got a syllabus.
Seal the border.
Table of contents, y'all.
Seal the border. Carry out the largest deportation. He letting us know what he's trying to do. End inflation and make America affordable again. That's he trying to play on words. Make America the dominant energy producer in the world. Stop outsourcing. Large tax cuts for workers. Defend our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and fundamental freedoms. Prevent the World War III. End the weaponization of government against American people. Stop migrant crime epidemic. Demolish foreign drug cartels. Rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. Strengthen and modernize the military. Keep the American dollar strong, basically, the world's revenue currency. Fight against Project Social Security and Medicare with no cuts. Cancel the electric vehicle. Cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costs on burdensome regulations. Cut federal funding to any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate radical sexual or political content on children. I can dig that. Babies don't need to know none of that. And for the record, political race theory is a college course. It's not being taught in grade schools. Stop that. Learning about slavery is American history, not critical race theory. It's American history. It's a difference. Keep men out of women's sports. Deport pro-Hamas radicals. Secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. Unite the country and bring a new and record levels of success. And then he got to read more. You know what I'm saying?
Can you click on those things and then it gives you more information, or it's just like it's play on words? So can you click on the Hamas one? I'm interested in that one.
Okay, let me see if it'll let me click on that one. These are just a 12-point program. So you click on more. Then it's the whole platform. So what number was Hamas? I don't remember what number Hamas was. He got a PDF. You click on that joint and take you to the PDF. Cultivate schools. Let me see.
18.
Hamas was which number? 18.
Yeah.
Okay, number 18.
Hamas racial and make our own college campus. Okay. What is Hamas?
It's
What's
the.
pro Hamas?
That's what I want to
Hamas is
find out.
Hamas is like a radical Islamic terrorist group that's been identified by the United States government.
That's false, bro.
That is false. That's why I want to see more.
That's what I said. That's why I said as identified by the United States government. That's what I said. Yeah, you got
But
to
what
listen
is
to
Hamas? I
the
understand.
words I'm saying.
Just look up the because they have two different definitions. They have a definition that's an Arabic Hamas, and they have a definition which is hey, I know I'm on your channel, so I got to be careful. I would say the Israel definition of Hamas, and when you look at the both of them, they both are the same thing because Hamas could be Israel could be Hamas, and the Palestinians could be Hamas. So when you look at that definition, the way they portray it on the television is not what that word actually means.
Yeah. All this breakdown
don't like
says is
that.
Republicans will protect Americans from terrorists. The terrorists of Guam, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, American Samoa, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, and vital importance international. We welcome their greater participation in all actions. So it don't say nothing about that. When you actually click on it and you read it, this is like Meta AI wrote this.
What people are gonna do is just look at
No, people are not gonna click it and they're not gonna read that. This is
exactly.
right.
Like people, that's what I've
The
said.
link.
I'm happy QT asked to like see if it elaborate on its 20 key points that they wanted to
Right. And look at
focus on.
the table of contents is only 6. So right away that tells you right now all of those 18 were just talking points. Still the border, the greatest economy, bring back American dream, protect American workers and farmers.
What's American dream? What's all that like? There's no
The classic American dream is just to be able to work and take care of your family and buy a house and have a little piece of America to call your own.
Yeah. I will agree on that.
Bring comment. No,
It's
it don't
it's
say
a,
nothing about that on here.
it's a number. I want to say number 18 is definitely standing out to me, and number which one? The one about the race, the cut federal funding for any schools pushing critical race theory, like that could have a broad spectrum on that. I don't like that, and I don't like the word of deport Hamas. That sounds religious, and I don't like that as well.
All right.
Like people are not their religion; they're people.
It says, what is Hamas? Hamas, the Palestinian militant, struggled to govern the Gaza Strip before launching a surprise attack on Israel in 2023, now facing Israel's military campaign to destroy it. Hamas's future is in doubt, as is Gaza's. That's all it says. Hamas is an Islamic militant group that spun off of the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood in the 1980s. It's took over the Gaza Strip after defeating its rival political party Fatah in elections in 2026. Governments, including the United States and European Union, have designated Hamas a terrorist organization over its attacks against Israel, which have included unaliving bombings and rocket attacks. Israel has declared a war on Hamas following the surprise assault on the country's south in October 2023, the deadliest attack in Israeli history.
But wasn't that proving that was themselves? That's crazy.
Well, yeah, let's not go in there because we're just, this is an American.
I mean, it answers the question. I mean, we don't gotta like it.
Right. It just says basically what I was saying. The way that they portray Hamas in the American dictionary, loosely, I'm using that word loosely, how they define it as a terrorist group. Just like Black identity extremists are considered a terrorist group. People that are Black identity extremists are, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. You are now a terrorist because you say that. You see what I'm saying?
I definitely would agree on that. I mean, America has a big thing about about individualism. They don't like that. Not as a people. What you want to say, Percy?
I was gonna say first is the United States, not necessarily America. And then it's pretty much it's the same thing as the Crusades. It's still Christian versus Muslim. So of course that you're here in the so-called Christian nation that doesn't say that it's a Christian nation, but is portrayed as one when it's not actually one. And it's just they have to do that to keep certain people in certain places.
I want to read this definition, dude. Check this out. I want to read this definition, and I want y'all to tell me how this is not pertaining to America. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. The word I'm defining is terrorism. Right?
That's funny.
How is that? How does that not pertain to Americans? The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against citizens in the pursuit of political aims.
That's just not America. That's all of North America.
Man, that's the most American thing I ever read.
That's all of the UK, Canada, all of it's every country's or
that's all the imperialistic countries. Got you. Yeah. But let's move the topic on, and anybody that's watching, if you're in the comments and you want us to keep going, put a 1 in the comments. If not, we're gonna carry on because we don't want to get stuck on this too long, but we definitely need to have a political show for sure.
You're right, because it's getting around that time and it's getting close to election season. I wanted to have at least one or two more shows before we got to that, a little closer to election time, where in my opinion, the senses are a little bit higher. People might be a little bit more clear-headed, maybe some more information to be out by then. But I would say this in this conversation: the contrast between the two sites is remarkable. He has actually key points on his site, and she has absolutely nothing. However, they both have a lot of donate to me type advertisement on all over their sites. However, him having at least key points of what he want to do, even though they don't have no explanation and they're really, really blanketed and they're really, really broad strokes. So you don't understand not everything that what he said. Some of them is just common sense, but a lot of it you just like, what the hell that means. And
but he got something that at least looks like a plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like the fact that he has something that looks like a plan is good enough, but it shouldn't be. And it shouldn't be good enough that she don't got no goddamn plan. She don't got no plan at all.
She can't be president.
She does have a plan. She just has Joe's plan. It's the same information. It's just a different face.
At least she can post it. And
she can't be president. That's the whole issue. She can't.
All right. What? So break that. Wait. Break that down, and I'm gonna say these words to for YouTube purposes. Break down your conspiracy theory. You know what I'm saying?
It's not a conspiracy theory.
No. Listen. You got to hear what the hell I just said. For YouTube purposes, because YouTube is break down. Look conspiracy theory. You dig?
Right.
Just look up. Like, is she a citizen?
She was born in Oakland, bro.
Is she a citizen, bro?
According to the 14th Amendment, she is. Anybody born on the soil, it has citizenship.
A person.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. All right. See, if what?
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, according to the 14th Amendment or the 15th, it's either the 14th or the 15th say if you're born on American soil,
it says persons. Persons could be a corporation. It doesn't necessarily mean a human being. That's what it says. It doesn't say people. It says persons. It's wordplay.
Well, brother, what is the meaning of you saying this? Because, one is going to take, a person being born into this country as a citizen, but you have another opinion or like I said, information on this. So what is that, brother?
The 14th Amendment states that the 14th Amendment guarantees citizenship at birth to all individuals born on the soil of the United States or within its jurisdictions based on just the soil. The only exceptions are individuals born in the United States, such as children of foreign heads of state or foreign diplomats, do not obtain citizenship just due to soil. Certain individuals born outside of the United States are on just, I can't say these damn Latin words, which holds citizenship. So basically, it's like if you're born on a military base on another country, you get it. You get citizenship because of that. Hang on, my kids is bothering me. Hang on.
Well, Purse, what do you got to say about that? What is your opinion? Now, I ain't going to say what you got to say, like, 'cause it has to be a rebuttal, but what is your opinion?
My opinion is that same thing with what, how can I say? Like, same thing with like the black people. It's like, I really hate to use that word, but that's just what I have to just use. They feel that the 14th Amendment overturned Scott versus Sanford, right? But when you look at the 14th Amendment and really look at it, and don't just look at it as words that are commonly used, that you have the common definition for, that's not what it is. Like I said, when you look at the persons, when you look at the law, persons is a corporation. It has nothing to do with a human. So it's like the way things are worded is not necessarily the way that you will perceive them. It is like how they wrote laws with the Queen vernacular. Like those words is like, okay, you'll look at it, but like, okay, this word means something. How the word is normally used, but it has a completely different definition. It's the exact same thing. Like, just the way the whole thing is, it's just like, I'll put it this way as well. So her heritage is not what they are portraying her to be in the media for certain purposes, right? For certain purposes, she's portrayed as a black woman to gain the black vote, to gain just, it's a lot of trickery going on behind her. That's it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but I'm just saying there's a lot of trickery that's going on behind her. And that's just period.
Like I want to say, and I want to say again, those two websites, Contrast, was just not good. It shows flaws for her, a lot of flaws for her, that she has no plan. Even if her plan was Biden plan, she could have copied and paste and wrote that thing in her own words. Something should be up there, and his should have way more details than what the hell he just said. But at least he has something. At least you could go off of something. And I don't like two of those little things that he has, and that's the one with the Hamas. But I mean, now that I had a better understanding of what he means, it's like, okay, that's a little above my pay grade. And the other one about the basically deterring racial theories, basically, it kind of sounds like if he wanted to take out slavery from the history books, or if he wanted to take out, let's not say slavery, because it's not always about us black folks. Let's say he wanted to take out how they came to America and took it away from the Native Americans. He may want to, not say he is, but he can, because it will fall under that little point that he made right then and there. Like that one point is like I said, is a blanket. It will blanket a lot of things that we don't want it to blanket. Let's say it that.
I get that, but at the same time, like, what did you learn in school? Like what did you actually learn in school about yourself? You didn't really learn too much of anything. So taking critical race theory out of the situation or whatever, it's who's writing the books. So that to me, that is kind of like a distraction in my eyes, because it's like you could go to school and you don't hear anything about yourself, and then the whole narrative just starts with slavery. But then when you start to study U.S., like real U.S. history, you'll begin to see that a lot of that slavery shit was a lie.
True. I also would like to say that maybe the factors in what happened to black people in America needs to be revised and updated so the truth can be on there. But to not talk about it, not want to talk about the Native Americans and how the fuck and the things that they did to them and the things that goes on. That's not just American history, world history, because we learn in social studies is just not in America. When we go to grade school, it's just not American history. We learn world history along with that. So if we can learn their dumbass mistakes, the idiotic and most inhumane things that they did, but you want to blot out yours, no, that's not cool.
Yeah, I got a question. So when I hear this conversation come up, shame on me because I never went to go dive deeper and find out exactly what they're trying to remove, right? First and foremost. But when I hear that, now I'm starting to think like, well, are they just talking about grade school? They just talking about first through K, or is this extend to college courses too? Because there's some college courses that will give people an in-depth study of themselves if you know who you are, type shit. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, check it out, young scribe. This is the BS tactic that they do. The course that's called critical race theory is a college course. It's not a high school course. It's not a grade school course. So them saying that they teaching critical race theory in schools is an outright lie. This is a tactic that they're using to try to take anything race related out of schools completely. So race related means slavery. Race related means civil rights. So they want to effectively stop teaching American history and hide behind this notion of them teaching critical race theory, because all critical race theory is saying, critical race theory basically, to oversimplify it, is just basically what would black people be had slavery never happened. You know, that's all it is. Like, well, if slavery never happened, what would black people be? Well, the only reason black people are where they are is because of slavery. It's because of Jim Crow. It's because of this. It's because we've been conditioned to believe that they're less than us. That's what critical race theory is about. So,
got you.
So they don't want to, right?
So does that okay? So they stopped the critical race theory. You said that's a college course, correct? Right? Mishear you, right? Okay, so what? 1 through K, they still teach like the fundamental. You know what I'm saying? Like the slave narrative still, but you don't get to get no deeper than other than that unless you strive to. You know what I mean? How we all did kind of strive to find out more information. But what about the next man who didn't strive to find out more information? They just still with that narrative. Like that's all they gonna give us now?
It sounds like that. It sounds like they're trying to closet information again.
Right. They're trying to get rid of that too, because the whole thing is there's been this push that they don't want white kids to grow up and believe like my ancestors were horrible people because they owned slaves. You know what I mean? They don't want one group of kids to feel bad for their history. But that's what history is all about. You know, Jack the Ripper is somebody's granddaddy. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
It's,
hip,
it's
bro.
just
Like,
it's just it's just what it's
no,
just
like,
what it
I feel
is.
you. I feel you.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's just what that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You know what I mean?
I mean, okay. I mean, I get it. I get it. Like, just like the psychological information, the weight of that information on some kids who may not know nothing from nothing, right? Like, oh shit, my people did that to your people. I'm talking from a white person perspective, right? They probably may feel like a little bit of shame for, you know what I'm saying, for their position in life, and they may grow with that hinderness. Okay, I get that. From black people's perspective, it may form some type of hate. You know, so I get that why you may want to remove that. But at the end of the day, it's like it's still gonna be questions. Like, why are these people treated so much better in society than I am? And it is gonna, you know what, it's gonna go right back to the race thing. How these people have been conditioned to think because of what, you know what I'm saying, because of the facts of what happened. They can't just get rid of that. Like, give niggas some reparations. Maybe we'll stop talking about it a little bit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just not. That's crazy to me. Like, that's so crazy to me, bro. You can't just
But you
not
gotta
talk
be
about
you
that shit
gotta
no more. You
see.
think it's okay.
Now here comes my I gotta use these words for YouTube. Here comes my conspiracy theory with the air quotes. You feel me? So with this word reparations, right? This word reparations comes around. Let's just hypothetically say that because the law is gonna basically say we're gonna provide reparations to the descendants of slaves, right? This is the day they're gonna pull out them history books because at the end of the day, the government's not gonna want to pay this money. So they're gonna pull out every stop to pay as few people this as possible. Because first of all, they're gonna have to prove who is and isn't the descendants of slaves. And you know who gonna show up first? You know who gonna show up and get their checks first? People that
Man,
don't look like us. The
they
people
gonna
that
shoot
don't look
man,
like
they gonna
us.
shoot themselves in the foot if they ever
No,
try some shit
no,
like that.
no.
Then what they gonna
Listen.
say? The
The
niggas that
people,
wasn't slaves were
the
actually Native Americans. Well, get
no,
them their
no.
rights again.
I'm
You
not even
know?
going. I'm not even going there with it. Where I'm going with it is that the first checks that's gonna go out are gonna be to the people that were documented, the indentured servants. And before indentured, they were only called indentured servants after Bacon's Rebellion. Prior to Bacon's Rebellion, Caucasian people that were enslaved were called slaves. So it's gonna be a whole lot of them that's gonna get reparations. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And then they're gonna go through and one by one, they're gonna start excluding people of color. They're gonna say, oh, you actually are this. They're gonna come out and start telling the truth. Oh, you're a descendant of the Melungians. Your people were never this. Oh, you're the descendant of these people over here. Your people were never slaves. They're gonna water it down so tough. They're gonna come out and tell the truth so tough that it's gonna undo it's gonna undo a lot of work that's been done in the civil rights community.
Civil rights nonsense. But check it out. So you talking about like how they erased the whole slavery thing out of history, or how they doing it. When you look at history, like, or even I won't even put it. I'll rephrase what I was about to say. So it's like blacks are the only ones that hold on to slavery. When you look at the word slave, it has nothing to do with a black person. It has to do with the Slavics. So it's like you're taking on a whole nother nationality, because that's actually a nationality, like Slavics. You're taking on their nationality. It has nothing to do with you. So that's the part of the history that's hitting. So if they are talking about rewriting the critical race theory to hide slavery for the blacks, they've already did it to hide the slavery for themselves. So it's not really any difference between the two. And then to piggyback off of what you said, like how they'll come out with the truth. So at that point in time, they'll show you how many blacks had slaves, how many blacks owned whites. All that will come out, and like that's a lot of what is being hidden, because our whole story starts at like the 1619, and that's a lot of nonsense. Like that's nonsense.
Hold on, reverse. So you're saying
But
like
it don't start at the 1619.
I know it don't.
Yeah. I'm like, even in America, I'm like, because I did the research and I know that in 1502, they had a pirate ship that came off the coast of like where the Keys are, kind of Cuba, Jamaica-ish, and they came and they did some trading. This is documented. They did some trading, and that's where the first humans were traded on this side of the hemisphere. And it was freaking a pirate ship. And it don't say what race the people were, none of that. It just say that people were traded.
Who were the pirates? First off, you already
Right.
know who those people were. Stop it. You know who those people were, man.
The pirates were they were basically
Who,
Arabs.
who are the Arabs?
And the Arabs is the whole group of people.
Okay, man.
So it's a whole bunch of there's a lot of because we can group them into Moors, but before they were Moors, they were called, you know what I'm saying, something else. But during that time, during 1502, they're absolutely called Moors.
And that's the one thing that is not to be taught. That's what's to be hidden. That's the secret of a lot of these groups.
Listen, slavery is all around the world. It's not just America. But however, America is the last of like the ending.
No, South America actually has slavery well into the 1800s, long about 40, 50 years after, 60 years or so after the American slavery ended. So
Research when slavery ended in Ethiopia before you even go there. See when slavery ended in Ethiopia.
Oh yes, it's still going on over there right now.
It's like 1960s, bro.
Well, it's still going over in certain areas over in the continent right now.
Yeah,
it isn't legal, but it's still going on.
It's not called slavery; they're just called maids now, but it's the same concept.
Right. The terminology changes, but it's the thing is still the same. So that's why I was saying we can't get caught up in the words necessarily, because they just changed the words to, like, I just like, you know, this is gonna kind of be off topic, but today I just spent like an hour researching my first name and my middle name, and I went through every single different connotation of my first name and my middle name, and my first name and my middle name literally translates to "he who struggles with honoring God." It's the craziest thing ever, man. So
it makes you think you gotta be careful what you name your kids.
But that's it. But that's what I'm saying. That's the thing. Like, but it's just a name. It's just my name. You know, is that who I am? Absolutely not. But that's just a name. You know what I mean? They got people that name their kids freaking Lunchbox in a different language and just think it sounds pretty because that sounds pretty. Their name is Lunchbox. But so we have to be careful with, because to Percy's point, they do use words to deflect, because anything that has its own dictionary plays by its own set of rules. And there is a dictionary called a law dictionary, and terminology that we use in common speech, like minority and majority, means a lot of people, means a lot or a little, but in law it means an adult person and a child person. A majority means a legal adult, and a minority means a child. So if you're running around calling yourself a minority group, you're saying you're a group of children, and under the law, children cannot make decisions for themselves. Decisions have to be made for them by the majority, by the adults. So you got to be careful with stuff like that.
That's facts. That's where a lot of the issues come in at too. Because you can run around like you're literally a bunch of people running around calling yourself minorities, and then expect something to change when you have no standing in law. Like that baffles me to this day.
I have another topic.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kissy.
Okay. My thing is, I guess it's like, you know how every.
Get your sound together, sis. You sound muffled and there's some noise in the background.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you know how each group, like, let's say there is the Black Brotherhood, and it's a group, right? And there is, let's say, whatever, different types of groups, okay? But why does the majority of people get uneasy when a group of white individuals come together to create a group for themselves? Why do we think that is like threatening when every other group can kind of get together and create something, whether it's positive or negative? Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but it's all about the what does that group stand for? Like, what does that group do? There's nothing wrong with it, but it's like, what is that group doing? Is that group it's the same thing with like Hamas? Does that group does terroristic action, or are they just out hanging out, playing pool, and drinking beer?
I said whether it's negative or positive, it's a group together for a cause. Every group can have, whether it's positive or negative, together for a cause. But once a bunch of white people come together, it's like we kind of see it as like very threatening. Is it because they are the majority, or is it because that we feel that they have more power, and therefore if they gather together, it'll be more strength?
No, it's a whole perception. They're not the majority. Like, they're the actual minority. It's just the power dynamics. It's just the way that they have the people thinking. It's like if you're controlling the narrative, you can get people to think anyway. And like, you think about it, like, how do you tie elephant up with a rope to like a rock and it doesn't move? It's the way that you have conditioned that mind. So they have conditioned the people's minds through indoctrination all around the world to believe that the white superiority is an actual fact when it's just a theory. So it's like you have to feel inferior to someone in order for them to feel superior.
Well, yeah. And with the white supremacy, if I can't say that on YouTube, I say supremacy. With supremacy in general, you feel the superiority they feel that they have over everything, and then they do have a monopoly on everything. So that wasn't.
Well, hold on, Morphine. I want to touch on this comment right here. Shout out to Mike B.
Of this country is anti-race. Wait, the basis of this country is anti-black racism. So to teach the truth would unravel the fabric of this country.
Okay, the reason I want to touch on that is because it isn't. I wouldn't say it's anti-black. It's pro-black. And the reason I say that it's pro-black is because you have to understand that black, from a legal standpoint, emphasis on this legal standpoint, is a legal status. So they want you to identify as that status. They are not anti you being that status. They absolutely want you and need you to be that status because it puts you in a position to where you fall under a certain group of categories of laws. Just like I mentioned earlier with minority, by running around calling yourself a minority group, you're saying you are a group of children under the law. And children under the law cannot make decisions for themselves. They need the majority means adult, to make decisions for them. So they are not anti-black. They want you to be black. They are pro that. Please identify as this. We want you to be black. So therefore, you can put yourself under this category. So therefore, we can treat you according to the codes and laws that are written for this group and class of people. Welcome to the stage, Mike, aka James Bono.
That's facts.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome,
All right,
brother.
welcome. Come on with your bill, brother. Welcome. You got the floor.
that was actually my comment that I put. I think that what you say could possibly be true. But I think that when you look at the history of this country and what I was actually referring to was the treatment and oppression of black people, not the classification of people as being black.
Is
Okay, let
there
me.
a difference in the treatment of being black and being black?
That's the difference between the treatment of being black and being black. Nobody's black. First off, that's just a social status that you're sticking to. Because at first, you were colored, Negro, African American. So black is just a word that's being accepted by these generations now. Like my father's in his like 80s. So in his generation, if you call somebody black, it was a fight. It wasn't accepted. So we are accepting these terms and actually thinking that it's something positive when it's absolutely not. You can't really go to other countries and be like, I'm black. That doesn't, like, what is that? A lot of countries don't even understand that. It's basically in the United States.
Yeah, that's true.
And
But I
the
mean,
thing about that
we're
though too.
referencing the United States though, so we have to use the terms that are.
But the
that are
thing
here,
about
right?
that though, Percy, is that that term has also evolved. So people like myself and you and a few other people understand the legal history behind it, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge that it has also grown and blossomed to being recognized as an American culture. And when I say this is why you see Jamaican people say, I'm not black, I'm Jamaican, and they be blacker than your patent, they be darker than your patent leather shoe. You see people say, I'm not black, I'm Dominican, I'm not black, I'm Panamanian, because they don't want to be associated with the culture that goes behind, that's attached to that particular connotation of the word.
No, it's not the culture. It has nothing to do with the culture. Those people have nationalities, so they're going to call themselves by their nationality. And to consider a person as, I'll put it this way: what color is coffee?
Depends on what you put in it. No, I'm just fucking with you.
What color is it? What color is it? Black or brown?
Brown.
It depends on what you put in it. It depends.
You've
on
never seen black coffee, Tim. Come on, stop beating around the bush. You've never seen black coffee.
I've absolutely seen black coffee.
You've never seen black coffee, Tim.
Yes, I have seen black.
If you roast it, it turns black.
So
the bean is not
So
black,
what-
but the liquid itself is black.
Is it or is it brown? Is
It's
a
brown.
darker
It's a dark brown.
shade? Right.
It's not black.
Oh, okay. So you
It's like a darker
just
shade
like-
of
I got you.
mahogany.
Just like our hair. I got you. Just like our hair. Okay, I got you.
Just like skin tone. A person will be a darker brown. Nobody's walking around with black skin, bro. So it has nothing to do with the skin of a person. Man, I'm telling you, like my last trip to Morocco, bro, showed me like so much about the United States, and it shows just how false this shit is. Like to actually go and like talk to people and actually be like, wait a minute, like what? To hear this shit different and to see it with proof, like going to the first US embassy and just looking at the different things and to see like the thing that tripped me out was like to see pictures of like President Obama inside the actual embassy. But then when they come back and talk to you, they have a whole different completely narrative. So it's like that's when I say when you go around the world using the word black, people don't relate to that. They relate to their nationality. Is not anything that anyone else wants to attach themselves to. Just like here, we're so stuck with this 1619 theory with the African. I mean, not the African, but the whole slave narrative. Like we're stuck on that because that's the only thing they teach us. They don't teach us anything else.
So basically
You
what
have to
you're
go
saying
find
is
the information for yourself.
So basically what you're saying is when you went to other countries, they immediately identified you as an American.
No, they didn't know where I was from. First off, when I went to Morocco, the first thing
when you started talking, they recognized your vernacular, bro.
Absolutely.
But guess what?
And
They never called me black. Never.
Right, they
But
called you
they
an
call
American.
you American.
Never called me black.
I see where you're going with, because if you go to other countries, it's definitely where you're from, like where your tribe is from. It's not really like black. It's like I'm from like Nigeria. I'm from this. I'm from that. Like it's based on. He's right. It's
yeah.
only that I came to North America that the black term is used. Like I'm black. I'm white. I'm mixed. Those three.
And I'd like to actually add to that, and I think I've said this before on a couple other shows. I'm actually from Germany, even though my father's black, my mother's German. But every time that I was in Germany, they never like looked at me and said, "Well, what are you? Are you black? Are you white? Are you mixed?" The first thing that they associated me, "Oh, you're American." And it wasn't until I moved to the United States, especially the east side of Buffalo, New York, where I got questioned like, well, what are you? We know you're not white. We don't think you're black either. So what are you? So it wasn't until I came to the United States like for good and I was at an older age to where I can actually grasp what they were asking me that I understood that there was actually a huge difference between the United States and Germany when it came to race. So he made a very good point. I agree with him on that.
Shout out to Miss Fields for joining the panel. Shout out to Janelle for joining the panel. So what she just said just reminded me of a conversation that we had in the back chat a couple of days ago, and the brothers were raising a hell about it. So what I proposed is that why are we, the so-called black people in America, so opposed to giving ourselves an identity of our own, that we want to splinter ourselves and identify with cultures that we have no remembrance of? We may have bloodline connections to, but we have no remembrance of it. And if we follow the narrative that has been explained to us, going back to the 1500s, like I mentioned earlier, we've been here 500-600 years. And in that time, we have cultivated and evolved into a culture that is distinct to us, to where in 2024, we are the most influential individuals on earth. The 40 million of us that make up the so-called Black American has influenced the entire world with the culture that we have cultivated here. But yet we reject this culture. We don't want to say that we don't have to use the term black. We just name it something. We want to throw away all the work that the people before us have done. All of the people that got their asses beat in the street, they got killed, they got hung and lynched. We want to throw all of that work that they did away. Fuck all of them. I'm not them. I'm an Israelite. Fuck them. I'm a Moor. Fuck them. I'm a Kemet. Fuck them. I'm a whatever the fuck. You see what I'm saying? Why is it that we are so against what we have cultivated? We was here. We cultivated. This is literally ours, but we rejected. And everybody was like, "Oh shit!" Like nobody really gave a clear, concise answer. And
I don't think it's a rejection, Tim. What I think it is that they don't know. Like you don't know, because like if a person's not going to treat you right, they're not going to teach you right? So the thing, there's just a few things that you said that stood out. How you say we're the most influential, right? We pretty much in the world looks at us and all this, like we are creators and all this stuff. Now, how can I say this? When you understand like the history, I know how you mentioned the Moors. The Moors is the difference between what you said with Kemetic and the Israelites. All those are non-nationalities. The only one that you mentioned was a nationality was the Moor. That's a nationality. And then when you look at how they influence the world, then we look at what happened after 1491 and where those Moors were going and how the whole Spanish Inquisition, like how that whole thing happened. When you look at that and you look at why you're here named Black and not understanding why your name is Black because you're a lost person because they're not giving you your history. But then once you capture your history, you'll see that pretty much everything that you look at have came from you, like just around the world. I'm telling you, like just from like the travels that I've done, I will never deny a Moor. Never. Especially like I said, my last trip,
Israelite is still technically a tribe, and a tribe still translates to a nation. So you know what I mean?
Israelite is not a tribe. I mean, it's Israelite is not a nation. It's not.
A tribe can still be considered a nation. They say the nation of Navajo people, the Navajo nation. But the Navajo are technically a tribe.
Navajo
there is no land of Navajo. But
Navajo is recognized. The difference is this: the Navajo is recognized as a nation. Israelites are not recognized as a nation. There's differences. Look up Resolution 75 from 1933. And I guarantee you, when you look at certain things, certain documents that has been here, like for you, that a lot of people don't even know about, you'll start to open your eyes. There's certain things that are out there. Like I said, this last trip to Morocco, bro, I got information that was like, what the fuck? Like literally, like, hold up. So all this stuff that's here, the information that we have here, how you were saying, like what you say, like from the 1500s or whatever, you have to go beyond that, bro, because we was here prior to that because they ruled the seas. When you understand that, the world will open up to you. Like even in Germany had Moors. I mean, it's I don't know. It's like it's a lot of information. I don't want to hog up. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, that part right there was kind of iffy to me, bro.
So would you say that like the Israelite is more like a belief than versus a nation? Is that what you're kind of trying to say?
Okay, you can't go to the UN and be recognized as a nation as an Israelite unless you come there as a collective, right? Because like that's the biggest thing that we have to do is come together as a collective. As long as you go under things that were taken from you, I mean that were given to you, and not what you are. Even like they'll even say blackamoor, right? They'll even say the blackamoor. The black of the Moor is the derogatory statement for the Moor. And when you look at a lot of things that, as far as basis upon, like how if you look at what's his name, Jesse Owens, when Jesse Owens was in the Olympics and he was running, when you look at the Time magazine article on him, they called him a blackamoor. When you look at certain people during those time periods, they call them blackamoors because that is the lineage. There's no way it's like when you see it, you can't deny it. It's like when you look at pictures with George Washington, you see the Moor. When you look at when you study Harvard and who actually helped Harvard, you will see the Moor, and you will see yourself. I mean, it's like it's no way to get around it, especially in the United States, because it's like, how do you figure who recognized the United States to even become a nation? It's like you cannot recognize that. It's like all these other groups are subgroups that don't really understand what's going on. A lot of like the Israelites, oh, that's biblical. Okay, but when we talk about what we can go see and touch, it doesn't stand up.
Okay, so when I Google the Moor race, right, or is it nation? Like it's a combination of different tribes or like different ethnic backgrounds.
Right. So the Moors, Yeah.
like
So
South Africa, which is northern Senegal, western Mile, Morocco, western Algeria, Arab, and Yemen and Syria.
right, like as a whole, that is what the nationality is as a whole.
So they're in all their background is Muslim population.
That's not necessarily true. I'm gonna tell you that right now, and that's why I was going
Algerians,
back. That's why I went to
they're
the Christian against the Muslim, because they have to do that to stop that narrative. I mean, they have to
no,
have that narrative to stop you from going back to it.
pardon me, it's a combination of both.
Well, and that's
Or-
another thing, because in a lot of the books that I read and studied, like the whole Israelite would be Moors. So
They
it's
would
like,
be. They
so
would be.
so
Yep.
there is no. That's what I'm saying. The demarcation that you made earlier wouldn't it? Like I said, they would be a tribe that falls under that empire. You know, because like for example, like she named a plethora of different countries, and these plethora of different countries that fell under that empire, even though it was the Moorish Empire, they still cleaved to their identity. They still cleaved to the land that they were on. Same in the Roman Empire. The Roman empires spanned all the way to the east, to as far down into Africa as Morocco, all the way into Spain. And they never called themselves Romans, even though they were a part of the empire.
Who didn't? What do you mean?
So the people, like, okay, for example, the Roman occupation of Egypt. The Egyptians were forced. They may have been forced to call themselves Romans, but they never identified themselves as Roman unless they had to. They still cleaved to their culture. They still had their religion. They still had their language. They still had their food. They still had their music. So
And guess what? Guess what? Black people have none of that. First off, and when you look at the food, most of the food is the exact same.
right.
Like just the basics of the food is pretty much the same.
Okay, this raises an
I
interesting
think-
question for me. My question would be: this is like I'm listening to what y'all saying, and now I'm gonna be like up at 3 thinking about this shit. So, like, pretty much what I'm gathering is if you're thinking about a nation, you're thinking about like-minded individuals, whether it be their beliefs, their structure, their food, their their traditions in that kind of nature. So then we call America a nation, but are we then really a nation? Because we are so a melting pot that we're not really a nation. Like if I think of like a nation, I think of, I don't know, let's say China, where 90% of them probably have the same traditions, same food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we don't have that yet. So
I like where you
can we really call ourselves a nation, or are we just a country where a whole bunch of us live?
That's all North
I like
America.
that. That's a good question.
That's all North
question.
America.
Well, there
That's a good
are some and very limited things that we can truly call American, like American football, American basketball, you know, things like that. But for the most part, even the history books acknowledge that this country was founded by immigrants. So and they refer to this country as a melting pot. So that's already woven and written into the history. Now, as far as us here in America saying that, and when I say us, I mean us that we got this melanated skin that say we are not a nation within ourselves, and that we don't have a culture. I don't give a damn where you are from the East Coast to the West Coast. If you are a so-called Black American, when there's a holiday, all of you are eating greens, we frying chicken, we eating okra. That's cultural. And Percy was saying that that's something we don't have. That is absolutely something. Food is absolutely something we have. Music is absolutely something we have. We don't covet it the way I feel personally that we should covet it. We don't, but and us, when I say we, I mean, you know, I'm speaking in general
Absolutely.
and loosely. we as a collective are hypocritical in a sense to where we'll covet it and reject it at the same time. And an example of that would be, oh, look at Sexy Red, she's so ghetto. That's not all black people. All of us ain't like that. All of us ain't tattoos and red weaves and twerking and all of that. But then they see what's her name? It's from Australia, T.I.'s label.
The white girl.
Iggy Azalea.
Iggy
Azalea.
Yeah. Oh, look at Iggy. She's trying to be black. Oh, so then you want to covet it. Then you want to say it's yours. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you want to reject it in this sense, but as soon as somebody else start doing it, now you want to say it's mine. You can't have it.
That even goes down to the hairstyles, the clothes, and those natures. If let's say a Caucasian woman, I'm not going to keep calling them white. If a Caucasian woman wears braids or box braids or cornrows, then we're thinking that she's what is that? That's culture appropriation or some shit. And we wear weaves all the damn time, and we don't think about it like that.
People gotta understand the definition of cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation is when you do something and you don't give credit to the source. You then say that it's your own. In the 1970s, when Bo Derek came out wearing cornrows, Bo Derek is a French woman. They start calling them French braids, as if Bo Derek invented it. So that's why it's called appropriation.
All right, I have a question for all the.
Well, there is that. Do black people do that? Do black people take something from other cultures and be like, okay, I'm not going to give the culture their props? I don't think we do that a lot. I don't think we do that at all.
I think when it comes to culture, I think it's a mixture of everything. If you go to different countries, you'll see a mixture of different cultural when it comes to food, even dresses. You can see, like, if you go through Yemen and if you go to like Saudi and you come to like East Africa, you'll see all different, like the dresses are kind of alike, but just they tailor it differently, or they put their own little mix to it and whatnot. So I think like even American food, like Black American food, has a mixture of other influences from other parts of the world that is mixed together. So like it's weird to say like we did this and this is our cultural. No, it's like a big influence of a lot of cultures coming together, but you made it your own, and it came on your own terms, right? Like in Somalia, in East Africa, all of it, they have different, it's influenced by a lot of Arabs, and they just put their own mix to it. So
this is something that we deal with in America. She thinks that since her daughter is of the culture, that permits her to be a part of the culture.
She is a part of the culture, bro.
Why not?
Now hold on, wait. Let me because I know where you're going. I'm not talking about bloodline and culture, not the same thing. Because we as the so-called Black Americans, I mentioned that earlier, we have blood ties going back to so many things. We just don't know. That's why I had mentioned earlier, why is it that we reject what we have cultivated over these 400 years and say that we are not that? Right. And then I went back to it and said, unless somebody, like this example that I presented, unless somebody else tries to adapt it, and then we want to covet it, then we want to say it's ours.
Right.
So you're saying like you should be proud of it at first before somebody else brings forward.
I don't think it's more like you should be proud of it. It's more like if it's yours, it's yours. It can't be yours until somebody else do it. Now it's yours. That's not how it goes. It's all an ownership. How is it how do you own this car until somebody else claim it? That don't work like that. It don't work like that. Black people do it a lot. We do it with hair. We do it with style. We do it with music. We do it with anything that has told us to reject ourselves. Anything we cultivate. we are taught to reject it somehow, some way. In these 300-400 years we've been here, it's somehow, some way. Give it 10 years, it's going to be rejected.
So why do people get offended when she's wearing those clothing or she's doing her hair like that?
You know,
she has
because of
black
the concept of she's not black. Like I was saying, like the same people that'll say she's not black are the same people that'll reject Sexy Red, the Bigos, and say, oh, the ghetto culture, that's not us, that's not a representation of us, that's not who we are, that's not a representation of us. But when what's his name, Post Malone come out, oh, look at that white boy trying to be back. You know what I mean?
Can I take it a little a step deeper before? Can I take it a little step deeper with the hair thing? I asked the bad chat this, and I'm not going to repeat what I asked them because it moved on to another thing that I want to bring up right now. With the natural hair thing with Black women in 2024, it is we have a negative condemnation on us with being natural hair. Like you got the crystals and you got the sage, because that's what they identify with being natural. Like I said, bro, give anything that was positive in the Black community 10 years, they're going to find a way for that shit to be negative. Anything. Go ahead, Jess.
Oh, I was just gonna ask because I don't follow like celebrities. Is she actually like completely white? That was Kim, right?
No,
isn't she Armenian or some shit?
Yeah, she's considered to be Eastern European, so that means far way up the line somewhere she has some African roots.
Okay.
I thought she was Persian, bro, or Armenian, like one of those.
Armenian.
Is she Armenian?
It's Armenian, yeah. The same. That's not too far off from Persian.
I mean,
that's what
I
I'm just saying. But that's what I'm saying. They descend from the same people, but what I'm trying to get, what I'm trying to articulate to P is that absolutely we go back to a lineage, but at the same time we can't. At the same time, we acknowledge that lineage. We cannot deny what we've become, the culture that we've cultivated within that time. Because
we already had the culture, bro.
No. What I'm saying is, if we had a time machine right now, and you was to turn back the clock, and you was to go to South America, the Yucatan Peninsula, the people that's there that we see today would not be the people that you see there. Culture would not be identical. There has been an amalgamation of cultures as trade happens, as all of this, as we interact and move and walk and migrate. There is an amalgamation of culture, language. Pidgin languages get invented because of this type of stuff. So we can't. That's what my position is that we can absolutely acknowledge the history of where we're from, but we cannot deny who we've become in that standpoint. To give a even more hyper simplistic perspective, I'm 44. If I go back to being 14, that dude is not me. I don't know who that dude is. I can't. That dude is not who I am today, because that dude has not lived all the years that I've lived and progressed and grown and evolved into the person I am now. I don't deny him. I don't deny him, because that is also a part of who I am. But I can't say that person from 30 years ago is who I am today. I identify as 14-year-old Tim today. I can't do that. That would be ludicrous.
Absolutely.
I have a question. So the culture, the Black American that you say they have, like Sexy Red or whatever you were giving examples of, is that culture due to like the deep cultural background, or is that due to circumstances of the country?
It's due to circumstances. It's the evolution of the culture over time. Most of the music that you hear today in America was invented by the people that they call the slaves. Everything is a branch off of the same tree. Blues, country, hip hop, jazz is all us. Rock and roll is so associated as not us today. It's called white boy music. But the first rock and roll artists were Chuck Berry and Little Richard and what's your boy? Come on, baby, do that twist. That, you know what I'm saying? Chubby Checker. Right. That was rock and roll music. And there are countless movies that show the history of these record labels where they show how they have the black people in the studio recorded, writing something, or they'll have the record executives go to the juke joints with little recorders and go there and transcribe the sheet music because they got a perfect pitch, and they'll come back and they'll do the same song and they'll circumvent the ownership, which is how they get us. They circumvent the ownership by documentation. You can be the author of something. This is where a lot of people get copyright twisted. You can be legally the copywritten author of a intellectual property and not have the right to sell it, which is publishing. In the 80s, Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson had a falling out because Paul McCartney told Mike, because Mike was like, hey, Paul, I'm making all this money. What should I do? Paul said, hey, you should find a good investment to invest in. You know what Michael did? He went and bought the publishing to the Beatles. Paul McCartney is a Beatle, and he didn't even have the rights to his own freaking music that he wrote. That's how they've done us throughout the years. And I'm just not even talking about music. Like Cotton Gin, you really think it was a slave master that said, let me figure out how to make it easier for my slaves to work? The whole notion that slaves were stupid and couldn't read is absolutely ridiculous. Do you think a person could build a house and make cement and all of that and not have an understanding of mathematics and measurements and understand? It's a craft. I'm going in too deep. I'll land the plane. Go ahead.
You're not going in too deep. You're just going back to the basics. So once again, the thing that you're calling culture here is what you were already doing. You're already doing it. It's nothing new. Like nothing new. It's just like what we did. We turned a lot of stuff over to where, as you were saying, we don't have the ownership to. So as like the whole Sexy Red, like that's kind of like the like an industry plan. It's like it's people that's run the industry that want a certain image for you, and then that's what the followers, the younger generations, do. They follow that image, and that's exactly what's going on.
I want to beg to differ. I want to beg the damn differ. Every culture, I'm going to. Every culture is not as bad as Sexy Red. Okay, let me make this disclaimer. I never seen music that damn broke. I never heard it. I never seen it. I never heard or witnessed or experienced a Sexy Red in my generation. It wasn't, if it is a bad, it wasn't that bad. So I would say this though. Every culture has a shaky butt damn segment of their culture. Like, Hawaiians, hula dance, Jamaicans have dance halls and things like that. And do you see a Jamaican dance hall? That's what we will call ratchet as hell as Americans. But to them, that's their culture.
Yeah, but can we? But hold on, real quick. Can we just really say out loud that Sexy Red is not our culture, please? Can we just please say that?
No, she's not our culture. But I would say the twerk ain't no but. She's not our culture. Period. Period.
But see that, that goes back to the
shaking ass and all that twerking and stuff. That's been culture.
You guys just did right now exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
You guys are denying Sexy Red, but the minute Susie Q come out with her blonde hair talking
No, I
about.
would deny Susie Q too.
I would deny all of
Let me
them.
say this.
You're speaking of you as an individual. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
as an individual.
as I'm talking about the collective. The minute that they come out and be like, Al, what's her name? Catch Me Outside. You know what I'm saying? She trying to be us. And
That's
the
not
collective,
us. That's just
but
ghetto culture.
right, but that's what I'm saying. But
But where is
and
this
see,
ghetto culture coming from?
well, that's
It has to come
and
from
that becomes
somewhere.
Everybody.
that becomes a different demarc. But no, but see, but that's where you have to distinguish a different demarcation as well, because it's semantics. What we would call ghetto culture, we wouldn't look at white trash people and call them ghetto culture. We would call them white trash. But
It's the same shit.
it's essentially the same
Oh
thing.
yeah,
It's
to
just,
me it's the same thing.
it's just
Yeah.
people in poverty that's living a certain type of way.
That's what I want to say. I'm like, there's a ghetto culture where she emphasized in ghetto culture. I can't say that's black culture, but her bending over, shaking her ass, and doing all those, or Gorilla. Gorilla don't even twerk. She just do all the little fancy, dances that the kids do nowadays. I can't say that's not black culture, bro. That's typical black culture. Shaking your ass is typical what we do.
I think she's doing what all North American individuals do in order to get famous. Like you can look at any white, Spanish, black. They all do the same thing. They all twerk.
Right.
They all rap or sing. They have, it's the same thing. But why does she get so much hate more? I think it's because she's black, and that's why she's getting the most hate.
No, because she talked about her
it's not.
CDs and
if you
her
look at Ice
coochie
Spice,
She's
green.
a She's a Sukiyana that went mainstream. Even Suki didn't go that damn far. Like, you know what I'm saying?
that means she's tapping.
Which made me mad. I ain't gonna lie, because Suki got better bars, but she didn't even get that far.
But that means she's tapping into a lot of people that maybe there is majority of individuals that
And
think
that's what I wanted to touch on right there,
exactly.
QT. What because to build on what Percy said when Percy was saying that it's a narrative that they're trying to promote via a certain sound, but anybody in business know you can only sell what the people want. We go back a few years, we had Conscious, we had the Dead Prez, we had Queen Latifah, we had the whole crews, like the Native Tongues and all of that. We had all of that, and they were widely successful and popular. And I promise you, the people that's in this business to just make money, they don't give a damn of what the product is. They just care that the product is selling. When they saw that a particular product was selling more than this other product, they was like, hey, we're gonna put more money behind this product over here. And it was literally that. It wasn't this is my personal opinion. I don't think this is my personal opinion. I don't know. I wasn't on the executive boards to know. I don't think there was like, we're gonna push this particular type of music because we want to destroy the black community. They was like, we're gonna push this music because this person sold triple platinum and this person went double wood. I'm not putting money in the double wood. I'm gonna put money in the triple platinum. You know what I mean?
That's how I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree. It was like that from the rip. And at one particular time, it was coveted. The DJs covered it. But then it started getting monetized because they started seeing the money in it. And they started seeing the money in, well, first of all, sex sales. We know that. And they started seeing the opening for that market. I mean, you had the Uncle Luke's. You had that market for that. And that thing took off.
Luke's, you had the queen of this, the print, what she called herself, the princess of something, the tiara princess. We had little Kim. We had all, what I'm saying? We had all of that. Sexy Red is not the originator of it.
Right.
So you're saying now it's just a new generation and just a new way of thinking,
and that goes back to the point that I'll keep reiterating. At 44 years old, I am able to say that I have witnessed with my own two eyes and every breath that I've taken all of these years that a culture transformed. I've seen the first female rapper to win the first solo #1 Grammy for a single be Lauryn Hill. Girls, you better watch out. Some guys are only about that thing. To 21 years later, the only other female rapper to ever win this same award said, "Look, little bitch, you can't fuck with me if you wanted to. These expensive. These is red bottom. These is bloody shoes." This is a clear, tangible piece of evidence to show the transition in the culture.
That's not a transition in culture, bro.
But let me ask you something, Tim, right quick. Do you think that there's a difference between female entertainers and the male entertainers?
No,
As far as we already know that already know that like sex. Let me give you an example. We already know that sex sells, right? So of course, you don't want your female entertainer up there in a nun suit. You want her to show some curves and stuff because you know what's gonna sell. You want her to talk a little bit of shit, right? But the one thing that I did have to disagree on when I was listening to I think Morphine, when I say that there are some people that literally do sign particular people, and I'm not saying necessarily to destroy the Black community, but to benefit themselves from the destruction of our young Black children. So by that I mean like thug music.
Y'all do know that the #1 group of people that buy Sexy Red and all of that ratchet music is not Black people, right? You know that,
right? Like I said that a long time ago. I said, like, do you know the #1 consumers of drill of that type of hip hop is not us? When you look at her concert, it wasn't a bunch. Man,
right.
Well,
hang on. Drill, hip hop, drill was invented in the UK. That's not even American.
That part.
Drill comes from drill is they shit that we adopted. For one,
okay.
and then number two, all of my life that I've understood and followed hip hop from my teenage era, from Snoop and Dre and all, I have heard every last one of them say that they've tripped the hell out when they would do shows in Denver, Colorado, and be looking at a sea of white people, and then white people be like, one, the whole audience, 3 and 2 to 4, Snoop Doggy Dogg, selling out 50,000 seat arena, and they the only Black people there.
Well, I think I'm talking about more when it started to shift into what we're listening. Well, not what I listen to, but what we're hearing nowadays. I remember not too long. I think it was like a year or two ago. There was a article that I read from a guy where he was explaining how things went. Where he had to go into this meeting, he had to sign an NDA for things that were going to be said in there. And basically what they were trying to convey is that they want to sign these gangster. That's why I said, is there a difference between male and female? They want to sign these male gangster rappers because then it can potentially influence that the young Black youth or white or whoever, just young youth, right? We'll be fair. The young youth to go and emulate what it is that they're saying in their music and their entertainment. Because quite a few of those big record label people or the people that was involved in it actually had stocks in the prison system. And I literally researched it. So it wasn't just one article read. Like once I read one article, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let me look this up. Let me look at. So I read like 3, 4, 5 articles and all of them backed that up.
That would make sense if women went to prison just as much as men did, because if you look at, and this goes because what Percy was saying earlier is that it's not culture, it's not a transition of culture. It literally is when you look at the state of hip hop today, and they mostly promote the female rappers, and we live in a society that promotes female empowerment and things of that nature, and they making songs called "Wet Ass Pussy" and promoting that song. The song is literally being promoted as women's empowerment. So that is absolutely a reflection of a shift in culture and societal norms.
But black women or women in general have never been the threat to nuclear families, to homes, to society. Taking the black man or the man out of the equation, that gives them more control over the woman. Think about back in the days, you know, you could think about, think about like Game of Thrones or Vikings or something. When all the men, when there was a war, all the men left, right? And then you had this village of women, and the village of women, a lot of times they would get rampaged because they knew all the men were gone. So history repeats itself. So a lot of times I do think that way. Like sometimes that their target is for the man, whether it doesn't, I'm not necessarily just talking about black men, just men in general, because once you remove the man, that removes that protection, that removes a lot of things so that they can start to control the woman. And I believe that
Well,
wholeheartedly. I'm not
that,
saying it's just music, I'm saying overall.
what you're just saying still ties to what I was saying, because even though there's been evidence that come out and said that the Willie Lynch letters are fake, the Willie Lynch letters, in my opinions, still are resoundingly accurate as hell. And the Willie Lynch, oh, excuse me, the Willie Lynch letters basically said that the key to creating an obedient group of individuals in a society is to control the women, because the women are the stewards of the children. So if you can get this woman to not rely, not have faith, to not covet her counterpart, then you break that whole nuclear setup, because you have the women now rejecting their men. So the target it may have appeared on the surface to be the men, because like you said, the men were always the warriors. The men were out there, shooting, like a lot of people don't even understand that the Black Panther Party, behind the scenes, the women made it roll, but it was the men out there shooting and dying and going to jail. The women absolutely made it roll. And when they started to infiltrate that, they brought the leaders down, but the real way that they infiltrated that was by emphasizing, because the programs were created in the 60s, but they emphasized a lot of these programs to women. Hey, your husband went to jail, we got the school program, you can do this, you can get a job, you can take care of your kids. And then we're 4 generations into that now. The first generation was, what we're gonna do. The first generation were actually men during the Great Depression that went on into the 60s that couldn't get jobs as they started closing these factories and all of this stuff. And they told their women, go ahead and get down on the program because these babies need to eat. It was men that said, you know what, we're gonna do for these babies. Then and the proof that it was understood that they were saying this is just something we're doing for right now is that in the 70s we had the whole Black movement as a unit and as a family. Boom. After the 70s is when you start to see the split. That's when we start to see the feminism come in and have a group of women say, I'm a woman first before I'm Black. So that splintered the movement right there. Then they start having the drugs come in, and then do it with the Panthers and all of that going to jail. They had these programs, these college initiatives, this the minority loans and stuff like that. Women start going to college and all of that. Boom, 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 boom. In the 80s with the crack era, and we lost a lot on the crack era. It was more than just the men that we lost. We lost women to crack too, absolutely. But that splintered the community even more. It's just like the more and more you see this splinter outside of the 70s and the Black Power movement, where do you see them trying to mend this splintered tree? You don't. And whose fault is that? Us. Only we can mend the tree. It's only on us. And even to what we were talking about earlier, that we're splintering the tree more. I'm not black, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. I'm not this, I'm a Moor. I'm not this, I'm Kemetic. I'm not this, I'm Nuwapian and whatever. It's just splinter. It's one split. I'm Pan-African. It's just splintering and splintering, splintering and splintering more. There is no collective. That's just my opinion.
So
Nah,
how is
that's
that?
a fact.
How is that culture though? How is it culture when there's outside forces controlling it? How is that the culture evolving? Like that's the part I don't understand, because like everything you said was an outside force that was actually implementing these certain things.
So, what outside force? Because I grew up in a generation gangbanging, and I can recount conversations I've heard many of people say. There is no outside force that told little boys to say school is not for everybody, school is not for me, I'm not going to go to school, I'm at this school. There's no outside force that told people that I'm not going to do my homework because school is not for everybody. And where's the outside force for that? Where is the solid foundation of the home of these kids being, because I get what you're saying, but there were outside forces that caused the splintering, but we perpetuated the splintering. That's why when I mentioned Willie Lynch, even though Willie Lynch has been proven to be a false document and not written by actual slave owner, it's still spot on. We still perpetuate these notions that were written in the Willie Lynch letters. We still.
Let me ask you a question. You know about the boule, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the term. I don't
You
know
know
about
about
Can y'all explain that for the people that may be watching this later?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll come around to it. So you know about the General Education Board, right?
General education, absolutely, the curriculum. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know about the so-called historically black colleges.
Founded by white people, the school to prison pipeline. I'm hip to all of that.
Okay, so how is it not outside forces?
It's not outside forces because I think there are outside forces. No, listen,
How is it not?
No, listen.
You've been completely. Hold up.
No. You just asked me a question. Now you want to keep going?
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so back to the Willie Lynch letter. The Willie Lynch letter was targeted to women because the women are the stewards of the children, right? So if there's a system in place that's called school that's designed to teach, that's designed to cater towards women, why are women not therefore taking the information they learn and being stewards to their children? That's not a system that did that. That's the group of women collectively saying, I'm going to teach my daughter this, but I'm not going to teach my son that either. Because it's not my job to teach my son that. It's his father's job to teach him that. And that comes from the culture. That comes from the culture of going all the way back to the Yoruba and all the other African cultures. Women keep the boys up into a certain age. At a certain age, he go to be with his daddy. Then I can't teach him to be a man. That's his daddy's job to teach him a man. So that's lingering culture that carried over. So if this woman is in a system that's teaching, that it's educating her, and she's passing these lessons upon to her daughters, but like you said, due to outside forces, the father has been removed. Why don't she say, hey, because they love to say I'm the mama and the daddy. It's Mother's Day and Father's Day. You give me a card on Father's Day too, but yet they don't enact the lessons of the father.
Okay,
so
I'll put it like this. Blacks are informed and not educated. So there's no way that you could say it's like what I don't get with you right now at this moment is that how you can say that you know about the school, you know about the colleges, you know about all these things that the forces infiltrated with, and not say that it's not something that was imposed on the people.
Because they didn't impose choice. Because if that was the case, there would be no nuclear families at all. Nobody would get married no more. No
You
houses.
don't
So-
you don't
so-
need choice.
Well, I think
Well, no.
choice is imposed with options.
Right.
So I mean, if we don't have those options, that limits our choices.
That's facts.
And that goes back to the self-perpetuating damage, is that the victim mentality, to build what John is talking about, John Neal is saying. The
How is
victim-
that?
No.
How's that a victim?
No, there is a victim's mentality. Back to what I said earlier. Who told the little boy gangbanging boys that I came up with that? Where was the white man that said, "Don't go to school because school is not for you"?
Well, I think what
Don't do
CJ
your,
said is
don't do your homework because homework is not for you. No, that was never explicitly. There was no plan that says we're going to. Little boys don't do their homework. Little boys ditch school. Black boys only. Don't.
Well,
No, you know what I'm saying?
I disagree with you on that. I think they're definitely, and I think the fact that if going to school gets me is not a real option. And back then, when going to school gets you nowhere, why would you stay in school? I mean, you have had these discussions before, where I told you I had an uncle when I was 12 or 13, and he tried to get us to drop out of school. He tried to get me and my cousin to drop out of school and go work at the steel mill because that was a realistic option for him. He said, school ain't gonna get y'all shit. And he wasn't doing it to be negative. At the time, he was the richest person in our family, but he just couldn't see that there was gonna be no more steel mills in 15, 20 years. So he was the richest person in our family, and he told him the school ain't gonna get you shit because that's what he's seen his entire life. And before my generation, nobody in my family ever went to college because school wasn't giving them shit like that. It just wasn't a realistic option. You know, my family came from Mississippi and slavery, and my grandmother was picking cotton, and none of them went to school neither. So I do think we're limited by, I think our options are limited, or our choices are limited by our options.
I just want to say I don't think that either of you are actually wrong. I'm listening to both of y'all. Neither of you guys are wrong. So from what I'm gathering is Tim is pretty much saying that how can I put it?
Personal choice.
Shit, I lost it.
The victim mentality of the white man is holding me down. The white man won't let me do nothing. But
right.
There ain't no phantom white man. The only white man that exists that's holding you down is the white man you invented in your head.
That's in your head. Like and matter of fact,
ain't no white man telling you not to do your homework. Ain't no white man telling you not to go to school.
But
if anything else, it's your homeboys. You know, it's the people that look just like you. And those are the ones that are bringing.
And that's what I said in the Willie Lynch letters. Is self-perpetuating.
But then, what you just said as far as the steel mills and stuff, because the older generation, that is how they think. That is where they come from. They don't come from. I have my father-in-law. Long story short, my father-in-law used to drive the school bus. That's how he met my mother-in-law. They've been married 57 years. He used to pick her up for school because they didn't value boys' education. So he would drive the school bus and drop all the girls off at school, and then he'd have to go back to the land and work the land. And then she would help him get past those little, he still had to do some schoolwork, but she'd help him and get past it so he could actually, quote unquote, graduate school. So they didn't value young boys' education. They wanted them out in the fields, out in the factories and stuff like that. So that's why I said neither one of you are actually wrong. But I like I said, there's no phantom white man telling your kid not to do their homework or to skip school or to do all this other stuff. That's just not happening.
I definitely agree with you on that. There's no phantom white man. But then at the same time, when you want to bring up when we talk about the Willie Lynch letters, and regardless if they were actually written or not, that system was in place, and that system left a legacy. And the legacy is doing what it was supposed to do. That's exactly what it was supposed to do. And so, I mean, it's hard for us to, if we acknowledge that, we got to acknowledge that shit. It was a lot of smart people in place that try to make that work.
True. Like I said, I don't think I've ever spoken with you, but my husband's a teacher. Been teaching for 17 years. You know, so he tells me all the ins and outs of education and all that other stuff, and it ain't worth a damn. Like grandma say, it ain't worth a damn. It ain't worth a damn.
They
You
work
know,
for Florida, huh?
it's the
They work for
prison, the
Florida.
pipeline. They're training you to be employees. That's all it is.
Absolutely. That's what it is. It's training, and that's what it started from. Because,
Mhm.
like I mentioned earlier, in the early years that I learned about slavery, slaves were extremely intelligent. They were, like I said, they were masons, stone workers, and tile creators. They built homes and they had understanding of measurements and mathematics. It wasn't until after a succession of rebellions where reading and writing were outlawed for them, and that worked for a time. But as technology advanced, they had to start having people know how to read and stuff again, because they had to know that when the machine had a sign that said stop, to stop working, so they wouldn't rip their arms off and shit like that.
Yeah, the educational system that we knew back then is far different than what we know now. Now, I mean, hell, even John D. Rockefeller, who pretty much invented the education system, said it out of his own mouth. He's not trying to educate; he's trying to create workers. He said it out of his own mouth. And if you think about it, and I explained this to my sons one day, because I don't want my sons to be robots. And I said, look, let me tell you something. I said they're setting you up for to be an employee, and I want you to be more than that. But for now, we got to do this because it's the law. You got to go to school. I said, but check it out. I said, you go to school, so you get ready, you go to school, you clock in school, you do a little work, you get a break, then you do a little more work, you take a lunch, then you do a little more work, you get another break, then you do a little more work. Now it's time to clock out and go home. Then you get home, you might have some homework to do. It kind of equivalates to adult life. Where okay, now I done got off of work. Now I gotta take care of the kids. I gotta cook dinner. For them, it may just be homework or taking out the trash because there's other things that need to get done too. I said they're just setting y'all up to become adults, and in a beehive mentality. All you're gonna do is get up, work, come home, work some more, go to sleep, wake up, and do the same shit all over again. I'm trying to break the cycle with my kids, at least for my kids. But that's what the education system is now. And they don't give a shit about your kids. I done said this on numerous calls. They don't give a shit about your kids. They'll pass your kids with a D. They could be dumb as a box of rocks. Can't read past the 4th grade level. And I promise you, they're going to push that 50 on their report card so they can see them walk across the stage so they ain't got to deal with them no more. And they're
Yeah.
going to send your kids out here dumb as a box of rocks.
And it's interesting that you use the term, your kids are not going to be robots. You know what the origin of the word robot means?
No, but you're
Slave.
going to tell me.
Slave. Slave.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, robot literally came from a Czech word robota, which means forced labor.
That makes perfect sense because everything you tell the robot to do, it does.
Without question.
Without question. Facts. But that's where I always get into it where that's why us as parents, we have to be our kids' biggest advocates. We have to teach them ourselves because you got some good teachers out there. Like my husband, he's a great freaking teacher. I'll never take that away from him. He's an awesome teacher. If one of your kids had my husband as a teacher, trust me and believe they'll always love him and remember him. But every teacher ain't like that. Some of them in there for a paycheck. They don't give a shit about your kids.
Yeah.
They just there to do their job and collect a paycheck. And then a lot of these teachers, their hands are tied by administration and politics and numbers and accreditation. So like I said, a lot of times I've seen the emails where he'll get an email and says, "Oh, little Johnny got a 45. You think you could add 5 more points to it just so we can get him across the stage?" And Billy's looking like, "What the fuck? No, he ain't do shit all
and
year."
and a lot of that has to do with the school having getting funding based on a certain number of graduates, based
Yeah,
on the
heads in the desk.
reputation of the school's ranking. All of that is determined on how many people walk across the stage.
That's right. It's accreditation. That's how they keep their accreditation and their numbers. And if they don't have the numbers, they don't get the accreditation. And then people start to lose their jobs. And guess what? They ain't trying to lose their jobs. So if that means they're gonna push your little Johnny to a 50, even though he can't read, they're gonna push him to a 50 and get him across that stage, and they're gonna clap for him and everything. They're gonna be like, "Hey, go Johnny!"
That's another thing too. You know, to tie it back into race. That's not something they do specifically for Black students. They do that for anybody that's not performing.
No, that's for anybody.
Right.
But
So,
I will say,
bringing it back to there's a system put in place to deliberately put people in a certain condition. It's kind of.
But now because I never want misinformation out there, and I'm only speaking from what I know from the 16, 17 years he's been teaching and the 15 years I've been with this man. It's not as often in other schools than it is in our school. And I'm being honest. Because not only does he teach there, he does homebound, he does summer school. I mean, he coaches, he does everything within the school system. So he also gets to see, like, there's a high school right up the street from my house. It's a predominantly white school. And half of the shit that he goes through at his school, he doesn't see at the school whatsoever. Never.
And I can agree.
Is there a difference in culture though, or class, or both?
Both, probably.
Yeah, because class is still culture.
I would say more class than culture, because we live in a pretty bougie ass area.
But that's what I'm saying. Class is still culture. Class still comes with a certain set of practices that comes associated with the class.
And where he teaches, his actual home school where he teaches is predominantly, I'm gonna say, impoverished. To be fair, and it's not just all Black. It's Black, brown. You got a couple white folks sprinkled in there. So it's not just all Black, but yes, the majority are Black. And it's a very poor school, and he sees the most there. He says it, and even down to, like, he says, matter of fact, I'll never forget, one day I took him lunch up here at Homebound. The school is literally 3 minutes away from my house. He forgot to get his lunch, so I took it up there because he was working late. Took it up there. I walked into that school. It looked like a college campus. I walked into his school. It looked like, I can't even tell you what it looked like. It just looked raggedy, got mold. They got trash cans on the floor to catch the water dripping from the ceiling. But the white school looked like a college campus. They got a Taco Bell in there. Dead ass. I can't make it up.
It's resources.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's just resources and funding, because typically schools are funded by property tax. So an area where there's a lot of public housing and stuff like that, you're not going to have a lot of funding going to the schools, versus neighborhoods where not only the houses are, there's more homeowners, but the houses yield more property taxes because the cost of the houses are in the upper 100,000s. You know what I mean? So even if there's a neighborhood where everybody owns a house, but the average cost of a home in that neighborhood is $60,000, versus a neighborhood where the average cost of a home is $800,000, the resources are going to be different.
True, but when we get down to, look, I'm not saying they needed a Taco Bell, but sometimes they can't even get the textbooks that they need. They can't get the resources that they need to teach. Now that's a huge difference.
Right.
It ain't got to be fancy, but damn it, can they get the textbooks? Can
and
they
then
get paper?
they probably don't have the same parent involvement,
No, they
that
don't.
white schools have, and that's a truth. It's a sad reality, but that is the truth to it. And
Oh
like
yeah.
I was talking to a client yesterday, and her kid goes to Bosco, and she was telling me all how much it costs. First of all, so it's super expensive, but then they're required to also contribute so many hours per year, and all private schools are like that. Well, most of them are, where they don't just want your money; they force the parent involvement, and I think that goes a long way with our kids.
But they
Yeah.
shouldn't really have to force the parent involvement. Like I'm involved with my kids because it's important. So that also I'm saying that because that goes to show a lot about some of the things that we prioritize.
Yeah, you see,
Um,
But then that's also a class issue too.
class
If
and
you,
culture.
yeah, class and culture. Because if you got a household that's predominantly single parent households, and that one individual parent is the sole breadwinner, that there is no available parent to be available to interact in all these school functions and all of that parental interaction and involvement.
okay, well, let me play the devil's advocate for a minute because there's plenty of times where Billy tells me, I know that woman isn't working. She'll come in and tell
Yeah,
me, why y'all call me? Y'all was interrupting my show.
yeah.
Why y'all call me for this? Y'all don't know how to handle them. So let's not act like every
And
one of
that's a
them is
class
because
issue. That's a class issue. That's
no. We're talking about the same area. Now you can have one
oh,
mother who
I
is
want to watch.
busting her ass.
You interrupted Dynasty. I got you.
Yeah, you interrupted my dynasty. I was watching Maury. I was why you calling me for this. Now, again, if this is a single mother and she's working her butt off and stuff like that, that's a different thing. Nobody's down in that at all. We're talking about the ones that come in smelling like a ball of weed with their pajamas on. They just rolled out the bed, talking about you interrupted my show. Why did you call me for this shit? And trust me when I tell you, I've heard more
Yeah,
stories like that than I wish to hear because I think that's ridiculous.
and that is a culture and class thing. And when people don't believe school is going to help their cause, if they don't believe it's going to help their kids' cause, it's just hard for you to buy into it completely. So everything we do, we got to believe it. You can't just, I put my kids in school and let them handle it. If you don't believe it, if you ain't supporting your kids at just as much as the school is, those are the results you're gonna get because they don't care about your kids. You're right. It's all a money thing. Let's get them in. Let's get them out. I definitely dealt with that with my kid. That motherfucker will hold a D the whole semester or F the whole semester, and that shit automatically goes to a D before the semester closes. So they go and just pass our kids through. So I mean, it comes back to what Tim was saying. There's no white man saying this. I and that just goes to personal accountability. I think that's what you were really trying to say, mostly.
Yeah.
And I do agree. I mean, we got to have more personal accountability. I think a lot of us understand there was a system in place. There was a way that we all grown up. It's a culture. We all grown up similar, kind of the same way. And there was a system in place for that. And once you realize that, is your personal responsibility to go beyond that.
To want more because looking at it now, if it's been that way for generations and generations, and what happens when the kid becomes aware of, oh, they're gonna just pass me anyway.
Yeah.
The kid,
Oh,
yeah. So the kid now has no incentive to
no
want to do that.
incentive. Let me tell. Oh, so real quick, I'm gonna say this because I think people need to know it. So what happens is not only like he does remediation classes. So let's say, and it's always at the end of the year, every year, 2-3 weeks before like the SOLs, the testings, graduations, or whatever, they'll come to my husband and they say, hey, can you remediate this one? We need him to pass this. We need him to pass that. So he'll actually take the time, during his planning periods or lunch periods. Sometimes they even, even after class, and he'll get them and he will get them to pass because he remediates them. These kids are smart as shit. And he said that. He said, babe, he said they know that we're gonna pass them anyways. That's
Yeah.
why they don't do the work all throughout the school year because they know they're gonna remediate, they're gonna get them to pass it, so it don't matter. He
Yeah.
said, so what's the point? He said, and how fair is that to the students that come to school every day, put their best foot forward, they do the work, but now this person can miss. Like there's one thing where I don't know about anybody else's county, but you can miss up to 15 days. By the 15th day, if you don't come to school, they'll disenroll you. So what they do is they'll miss 14 days and they'll come to school on the 15th day. And you have to give them the makeup work and you have to remediate them even though they didn't come to school. You still got to grade the papers. Like if I was a teacher, I'd be like, fuck you. You didn't come to school. I'm not grading nothing. I'm
I
not
agree.
doing all that. But you have to because it's all about the head counts, the people in the desk, and people walking across the stage.
The money,
Your
you're right.
children, I'll give you one more example and I'll shut up. I remember one time the principal and the assistant principal showed up to my house during the summertime now, right before school started. I thought it was just like, hey, welcome back to school, blah, blah, blah. They talked about my son's attendance because the year prior, he had missed 18 days, but he missed them because he was sick. I don't send my kids to school sick. And she was like, oh, well, just send them to school and we'll determine if they're well enough to stay or not. And I looked at her. I said, did you forget that I was married to a teacher? I said, all you need to do is mark them present. That's all you need. I said, so you're going to inconvenience me by sending him to school sick. Now, once you say present and you get your check, you going to call me out my bed to come and get him? I said, well, I tell you what, since you know where I live, because you're here, when I send him to school sick and you think he's not well enough to stay at school, you put him in your car and bring him home because I ain't coming. It's all about money. It's all about a check. It's all about a head count. It's all about numbers and who crosses that stage. Point blank, period. And I'm telling you this as a veteran wife of a teacher. They don't give a shit about our kids.
I agree with that. And that's when it becomes our personal responsibility to, have more involvement with our kids' lives. And a lot of our kids are, single parent homes and shit like that. And it's people busy, people working, that makes it harder and harder.
I agree, but at the same time, it does nowadays it doesn't take much time anymore. We have technology.
Yeah.
You have parent view where you can check their grades. You have text messages where my teachers, my son's teachers text me, hey, he's having a bad day today. Hey, he needs to make this up. Hey, he needs to do this. Hey, he had a great day. Like they keep in touch with me. But you know why they keep in touch with me? Because I respond.
Yeah.
If I didn't respond, they wouldn't keep up with me. You got Class Dojo, you got all these different shits that you can log on to and track your child's progress. I bet you they on TikTok. I bet you they on Instagram. But you got all these other programs that you can sign up on your phone and you can
Yeah.
view what your kid is doing and keep track of them. So I can't accept that as an answer. It's
No,
not acceptable.
I definitely agree with you. Everybody on TikTok and Instagram.
But you got Class Dojo where she'll literally post your son's grades or his progress. You ain't checked that shit today, but I bet you checked your Facebook. Am I lying?
Nah, not at all.
No. So yeah, no, be involved in your kids' education because they not. You'll have a handful of good ass teachers, but that's about it.
Yeah, and I understand where the teachers come from. They overworked and overwhelmed, just like everybody else. And it's frustrating trying to get through to a kid, but no matter what the hell you say, what's going on at home is going to take precedence over that.
Yeah, so
So
I'm just looking at some of the programs that went into effect, and let me see what year this was. It's basically a program that was recently put in place that I don't say it, and it says it started in the early 2000s. It's called the Grading Gap. You guys ever heard of that? Have you ever heard Billy say that?
Yes.
So what the Grading Gap is a program where they count the work from students done at underfunded and under resourced schools as the equivalent to grades at different schools. For instance, the idea that a student from an underfunded school who earns a B should be recognized for their performance as a higher level due to the additional challenges they face. So basically, if you go to a school in the hood that's underfunded and you get a 2.0, they're gonna count it as a 3.0 because you're a genius because you was able to get that grade at an underfunded school.
Right. Which is ridiculous. That is ridiculous to me. Because you're not pushing our children.
That's also a setup for failure when they try to go to different colleges.
Right.
They have no knowledge of anything whatsoever.
Right.
I remember they did that recently too, like with the SAT scores. Like if you went to a certain school and you scored a 900, they would count it as a 1100 or something.
But that's dumbing down our kids.
But that's essentially. But that's just the thing, though. Passing the kids regardless is dumbing down the kids. But we got a couple more minutes. I'm not trying to have a 3-hour conversation, so I want to wrap the show up. Everybody, final thoughts go around. Starting with you, Miss Fields, since you're at the top.
Well, I came in last at the tail end. A lot was discussed. I think right now I'm just still stuck on the school thing and our children. And so I think the only thing I can really say right now is parents, focus on your kids. They have all different types of programs that you can sign up online class. I don't know what they might call them in your city. Get with your schools where you could track their progress. Check in on them. Check in on the teacher because the teacher has like 30 kids sometimes. So they got 30 different personalities, 30 different kids that they're trying to teach. Who better to help them educate your child than you? Even if you're busy, you could take 10, 15 minutes out of your day and just help the teacher, help your child. Like let's start somewhere. That's really all I got because that was the part that kind of irritated me. So I land my plane.
All right, John, your final thoughts, and if you want to tell the audience where they can find you and any type of plug you want to put in. You got to unmute yourself. All right, he's struggling. Go ahead, P. Final thoughts and any plug you want to throw out there where the people can find you.
Final thoughts. Is he on?
No, go ahead.
All right, final thoughts. I'll stay on the education as well. What a lot of us fail to realize is that the kids go to school and they're not educating the children. They're indoctrinating them into the system. As you, I'm not sure if the lady name was. She was speaking on how the schools are pretty much setting them up to be employees. So that's one of the biggest things that we really have to focus on. And like far as like my daughter, she's 13. Like I don't care about grades. The things that I teach her are like, look, we need to know about history. I want you to understand who you are internally, know yourself, and teaching her these other different languages so that way she can expand and live beyond just the United States. That's pretty much all I have to say.
All right, John.
All right, my bad. I was talking, didn't realize the mic was on mute. But I think Percy and Miss Fields kind of wrapped it up too. I mean, it's definitely a personal responsibility with education. It's definitely taking more responsibility in yourself and your kids, and not depending on someone else to push it through for you. And I think that's where I would leave it off at. Especially, I mean, once you know, ain't no one gonna push it through for you. You gotta take that more responsibility on yourself.
All right. So I want to thank everybody that came on the panel today and everyone that watched in the audience. Thank you so much. And we'll be back next Monday with another episode of More Conversations with the Average Black Man, live, baby, live.
Peace.
All right. So if y'all want to hang out, y'all can, or if you want to hang up, you can do that too.